Great. Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here on the SoMeDocs platform today and share with you how to understand roles to pursue in pharma and biotech for physicians. So briefly, I'm Narissa Crayer. I am a pediatric endocrinologist by background. I've spent more than 15 years in the biotech and pharmaceutical industry, transitioning first into medical affairs and then into clinical development. And I'm currently the chief medical officer of a biotech company. And so I want to be able to share that there are roles for physicians in pharma and biotech. This is something that a lot of people don't know about and have a lot of questions. So I'm really happy that I'm able to share that with the audience today. So you're here because maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're looking for a different way to use your medical knowledge and medical training. Certainly for some physicians, they are questioning if they made the right decision to go into medicine. The additional hours, nights, weekends, charting, call has really, started to take a toll on a lot of physicians. And there's fatigue out there. Some physicians are looking for different ways to utilize their training and to make a wider scale contribution to more patients. Maybe you're hoping for predictable hours and a predictable lifestyle with more work-life balance. And potentially you're here to explore some opportunities to grow and expand beyond your current expertise. So what I'm here to share with you today is that there are ways to do that. There are ways to have really fulfilling careers and use your medical knowledge every single day. At the same time, I suspect many of you feel like you don't know much about the biotech or pharmaceutical industry, and that shouldn't be surprising. In fact, we don't learn about this in our medical training, right? You don't learn about it in medical school or residency or fellowship. And here's a statistic to share. Less than 1% of all physicians actually work in the pharmaceutical industry. So you've never learned about it in training, and there aren't a lot of us. So this is not really surprising, and this is why I'm here to share this with you today. So I'm going to talk about the three main career paths for physicians in pharma. There are actually a lot of other ones, but typically you're going to get into the industry through one of these paths, and then you'll have an opportunity to branch out into other things. But today the focus will be clinical development, medical affairs, and patient safety or pharmacovigilance. I'll use those two terms interchangeably. Another term for that is also drug safety. So those are all be interchanged throughout. So let me first talk about clinical development. Clinical development involves all aspects of studying an investigational drug product in human trials. We typically refer to early phase trials as phase 1 and phase 2, late phase trials as phase 3 and phase 4. If you haven't heard of these phases, phase 1 is typically healthy normal volunteer studies where we're looking specifically at safety. And then phase 2 and phase 3 are the studies where we're looking for efficacy as well as safety, typically in the patient population. And phase 4 is post-marketing, so after a drug has been approved. Just a little bit of terminology for you there. So what does a clinical development physician in industry do? Highly engaged in developing the clinical development plans. So this includes thinking about things like efficacy endpoints, how do they get incorporated into clinical trials. You're looking at all of the available data to you to help you think about what's the safety of the molecule. So you're thinking about the non-clinical or animal data that's been generated before we get to move into human trials. You're contributing to lots of clinical documents, so clinical trial protocols, informed consent documents, investigator brochure where we're describing everything about the drug that we're studying, regulatory submissions to agencies like the Food and Drug Administration or FDA. So, of course, to go into humans, we have a lot of regulatory hurdles that we have to get through. And so, those kinds of documents where we're corresponding with the FDA or other regulatory agencies, the clinical development physician is highly engaged in. You are always utilizing your clinical knowledge to evaluate new business deals, mergers, acquisitions. So we call that due diligence. And a physician might be brought in to evaluate the disease state and the clinical development plan that already exists if we're looking at doing a deal with another company. You may also serve as the medical monitor for a trial, and in that situation, you're literally looking at all the clinical data coming in, looking for any safety signals, abnormal labs, and really thinking about, is the conduct of the trial happening as it's supposed to? Is it happening by the protocol? Are the physicians that are doing the trial, called principal investigators, actually following the clinical protocol, which is critical, of course. I've already mentioned the interacting with regulatory agencies, but one of the things that I have done in my career and continue to do is go in front of the FDA or EMA, which is the European FDA, and talk to them about what are we planning, what are we thinking, and so there's a lot of dialogue there. Some key people that you work with at a company on a team would be clinical operations. Those are the people who are making sure that the day-to-day activities are happening. Regulatory, the safety physician and safety team, data management, biostatistics, medical affairs, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, and medical writing. So there's a lot of cross-functional teamwork in pharma, and these are some of the components of a team that you would work with as a clinical development physician. I'll transition now to pharmacovigilance. Remember that I mentioned this can also be called drug safety, patient safety. Different companies use different terminology. So this involves understanding the safety data for drug products in both animal or non-clinical as well as human or clinical data. This can be from drugs that are not yet approved, so they're in clinical trials. Can also be from drugs that are already on the market. So of course, we're always bringing in safety data. And so the safety physicians are involved in looking at all of the data, whether a drug is approved or not. Some of the roles and responsibilities for a pharmacovigilance physician would be to understand all safety data related to the drug products that are their responsibility. And so they're going to understand, what data were generated in animal studies, as well as all the way through what we call the life cycle of the drug. They're involved in writing annual safety documents. Again, going back to the regulatory piece, pharma is a highly regulated industry. And so we have reports that we have to do from a safety perspective on typically an annual basis. There are all kinds of other reporting rules that are involved as well. But the safety physician is going to be engaged in synthesizing the information and really putting it in the context of the clinical picture. They contribute to and review clinical documents like clinical protocols and would work closely with a clinical development physician to make sure that the appropriate safety specific items are incorporated. Regulatory authorities highly engaged there as well, just like a clinical development physician would be. They might contribute to post-marketing safety study design. So you may be familiar that, some drugs have what we call REMS. A great example of that is Accutane, the acne drug. So a REMS program is a risk mitigation program, and the safety physician at a company is going to be very much involved in designing that, in looking at a protocol that might be utilized, and really taking accountability for anything safety related when there is a specific risk for a product. Key people, you'll see a lot of the same folks mentioned because the cross-functional teams are often very similar. Clinical development, clinical operations, regulatory, a group called medical information, medical affairs, and medical writing would be a few of the cross-functional team members that a safety physician would be involved with. And then the third is medical affairs. I would say medical affairs is probably the one that most people maybe are the most vague about or don't understand because clinical development you can sort of understand quickly. What's a protocol? Okay, the clinical development physician is engaged in uh, generating and designing a clinical protocol. The best way to understand medical affairs is to think of it as the external scientific or medical arm of a company. So the medical affairs team, which includes physicians, but not always only physicians, it can be PhDs, it can be nurses, it can be PharmDs, but they are going to be taking scientific and clinical information and communicating it to external stakeholders, such as key opinion leaders, thought leaders, patient groups, and other physicians generally. And so they are going to be highly engaged in understanding, again, all of the data, all of the medical knowledge, but they're translating it into the voice that it needs to get to. So, some roles and responsibilities for the medical affairs physician would be to be a medical and clinical expert on the drug products that they support. So, again, we all have to know the data, right? That's critical. But they're going to really be experts in the disease state. Let's use Crohn's disease as an example. If you're a medical affairs physician and you're supporting the GI franchise, the Crohn's disease product, you are going to be expected to know the ins and outs in Crohn's disease, stay up to date on all of the relevant literature. So, again, just tying to how important your medical and clinical knowledge are in pharma, I think that's a great example. You're going to be involved in developing strategy about what to communicate. So, we generate reams of data in clinical trials. So, the medical affairs physician is going to help distill that down into the right information that the physicians out in practice need, that the patient advocacy groups need, and think about how to communicate that. Whether it's in publications, whether it's at a conference or a congress, abstracts, posters, podium presentations would be examples of what the medical affairs strategy involves. They're involved in evaluating external information, such as marketing materials. So it's incredibly important that things are medically and clinically accurate. So the medical affairs team is involved in reviewing anything that's going to go external, a company's website, for example, maybe a brochure about a disease. That physician knowledge is critical in that review process. So high contribution area there. Expert advisory boards, we bring physician opinion into drug development all the time. And so medical affairs is involved in coordinating, organizing, and gaining information from advisory boards. Those can be from physician advisory boards, they can be from patients. I've done nurse advisory boards in certain situations before. So, we're collecting that opinion of the people utilizing the medication or therapy. Contributing to post-marketing phase 4. So medical affairs, often there's kind of a bridge between clinical development and medical affairs as you move to a drug that's in the post-marketing setting. And medical affairs teams often contribute to any post-marketing studies, registries, etc. Again, some key people you might work with: clinical development, regulatory, medical information, medical writing, and here more of the marketing side of things and business development. Now, I think it's really important that you understand that medical affairs physicians are not part of a commercial team or a marketing team, but they do liaise and work with those people quite often. All right. So those are the three major areas that most physicians are going to transition into as their first role in industry. And again, clinical development, pharmacovigilance, and medical affairs. So my guess is many of you that are listening may be saying, but, oh my gosh, hurdles. I don't have any experience in the pharmaceutical industry. I don't have any clinical development experience. I don't have any skills that you're talking about. And you suffer from I'm just a syndrome. So I call I'm just a syndrome. I'm just a pediatric endocrinologist, or I'm just a family physician. And this is where the mindset and coaching really comes in. If you go into a job search with these hurdles in mind, it's going to be really hard to be successful in transitioning. So, in coaching, we work through these mindset issues and get you in the right mindset. So, let me just touch on those briefly. You absolutely have experience. Okay. You've been through an undergrad, you've been through medical school, most likely residency, some of you fellowship. Think of all the years of experience you have. You have your clinical and medical training, and that's really what the pharma industry needs. As I was describing the responsibilities and roles, what you heard is you need to understand diseases, and that's what physicians do. So you absolutely have experience and transferable skills. The other people tell me, well, I don't have leadership experience, I don't have management experience. But in fact, you do. If you think about it, you've managed teams, you lead teams day in and day out, right? Your whole medical team you're a leader of, and they look to you for that. So there are transferable skills to build on. We just have to get you in the right mindset to understand what is pharma looking for, and how do we take your experience as a clinician and really help people that you're interviewing with understand that experience. The I'm Justice syndrome, I've had clients that are pediatricians, I've had clients that are family medicine. Any kind of physician can get a role in pharma. Some are easier than others, admittedly. If you're an oncologist, that's probably the easiest. There's so much drug development in oncology, highly sought after area. But truly, any kind of physician can land a role in pharma. And I just really want to, hit home on that, because we as physicians often just undersell ourselves incredibly, and I don't want people to do that. All right. So, going into this, the reason I started doing this is that I was seeing that we need physicians in pharma in the industry I work in. I try to hire them. It's hard to find them. So it's something we need. And you saw that statistic earlier, right? Less than 1% of all physicians are in pharma or biotech. But what I want to do is try to help you, right? Your time, your expertise is valuable. And I want to help you navigate the process so you don't waste time, you don't waste energy applying for the wrong positions, not understanding the job descriptions, and really underselling your accomplishments and skills. We also don't want you to make uninformed mistakes in the interview process that would kind of kick you out of the process for a role, because it was just something that you didn't understand about the industry. So I've created the Physicians Pharmaceutical Career Academy, an evergreen online course that is on the SoMeDocs platform to allow you to be guided through the entire process from soup to nuts, all the way from understanding job descriptions, understanding the types of roles you should apply for, the types of roles you should avoid, through interviewing, through negotiating, and through what it looks like in your first few days on the job. I also do some one-on-one coaching. I think this mindset piece is really critical. I can take you through the steps, but also getting you in the right mindset is critical to you going in with a positive attitude that you can do this. So, if you're ready to have intellectual stimulation every day to help more people on a wider basis than you might be able to in clinical practice, to be valued for your expertise and your time, and to really have a nice work life balance, then consider pharma, consider biotech. I'm happy to answer questions. There are multiple ways that you can be in touch with me and we can have some dialogue. Very happy to do that. Um, and I really want to help people show up with confidence in making a career pivot. I want you to enjoy the job search with tools and resources that are provided. And really, I want to see my physician colleagues experiencing fulfillment. Many of you do, but some people really are struggling now. And I really just want to be able to help people to have fulfillment, to use their clinical and medical knowledge in a way that they feel valued. And so, this is definitely a career path that you should consider. And if you would like to be in touch, I do have a website. I publish blogs where physicians have told their transition stories. That can be really motivating because you can see the different ways that people go into pharma. You can see the different ways that they take careers and also understand the variety of specialties that are out there working in pharma. I also have a Facebook page, the Industry MD Coach, and you can reach out to me through either of those, also through the SoMeDocs platform. And really happy to be here and share this information with you today.